Well, how's it going, everybody? Gee whiz, JT here from our Ethereum, the Ethfinance Daily Discussion, with my friend from down under, Steve Mary from Scenario Protocol. Say hello to the world.
Hello, world. Hello, JT. How you going? Stressed.
Good to have you here. Just a full disclaimer, we got started late because I had no internet service. We were just quietly doing a Discord call with the members on the EV Mavericks Discord, and we got internet restored. They said it was going to take like 3 more hours to fix. So I say all that to say this. If this live stream goes down, it's actually not my fault this time. I have other people to blame in other ivory towers. So we're just damn glad that you could meet us today, Steve. And I want to get right into it before we waste too much time in an effort to avoid, a potential internet shutdown situation. So we'll get right into it. I'm JT on behalf of the Ethfinance Daily from the R Ethereum community on Reddit. And big thanks to the EV Mavericks on Discord for hosting this happy hour for this day. This is March 14th, the 103rd episode. Make sure to give us a thumbs and smash the bell if you haven't already. We are currently live streaming on 2 different Twitter channels, mine and the EV Mavericks channel. We got a little chat box here. If you got something you want to say, it should populate in. And we're also streaming on YouTube and Twitch, of all places. So we're real glad that you could join us. If you want to jump in on the live discussion going on right now, you could join us on the EV Mavericks Discord. The links are in the description somewhere below this screen here. So, Steve Mary, we had a little bit of a conversation earlier, and I wanted to find out if he had a Reddit handle, and he sure does, but he's got so much more than that. So let's rewind the tape, Steve. You knew about the EV Mavericks because you're a holder. Let's get into that part.
Yeah, I am. Well, to be completely honest with you, I was. I'm embarrassed to admit that I did sell it at one point, but I minted it originally and held it for quite a while. And I still am a regular member of the Ethfinance, which is now simply the Ethereum subreddit. And yeah, I love the place. And obviously that's where I've come to kind of get to know Logri and several others. And Logri is an advisor to Scenario now. But yeah, I think I do rate it as one of the best kind of places that's full of just knowledgeable people who really have a long-term view, and with current price action we would need to have a long-term view, I think, which is a bit depressing, but yeah, it's a great community. So
well, you know what I say,
all the Mavericks.
You know what I say, it's never too late to be early again. So
yeah, I like that.
We're all early.
They are for sale if you want to buy back.
That's right. You know what? You needed the money to fund your project, so the EV Maverick was sent to for sale to do other things, and that's totally okay with us. We get it. So let's dive right in. So Scenario.protocol, it's a site that people can go to. Scenarioprotocol.io. People can jump in right now. I know you said you got some referral codes because you guys pretty much launched within the last 24 hours, right?
Yeah, it's what we're calling our early access sort of mode. So essentially it's like a gentle way to launch and give people a chance to get in, especially people we want to have come in, because the entire idea of it is to have knowledgeable people using it as one side of the marketplace. So yeah, we've got a referral code for the EV Mavericks, which is simply the word Mavericks. And we'll make sure that, it's a good thing if you do join with that down the line. But basically, yeah, it's open now in an early access kind of situation where you can test out some of the features of the platform. And pretty quickly, we're going to be adding some new features into the coming weeks that will make it a lot of fun, I think.
So what's the 50,000-foot view of what Scenario aims to do?
Basically, it's a way where you can... A lot of us, I think, are either busy or just aware of how much is going on. Even just in crypto alone, it's really hard to follow the news. And I think it's often unhealthy for us to stay tuned in as much as we do. I know myself, I've been in crypto since 2018. I have had periods where I follow it extremely closely, and always, maybe, you're aware that is not the best thing to be doing all the time. So if you're looking for a way to hear about particular events or things that are happening in crypto that you're waiting on, and maybe you don't want to be following 30 to 50 projects in Discord and listening to 5 podcasts a week and getting 3 or 4 newsletters a day and all these sorts of things. You need to go away for a month, clear your head. Scenarios are where you can jump on in plain text, type out the 3 or the 4 or 5 things you're waiting for, step away, and set up alerts basically to get exactly that information sent to you when those things happen. And then you're relying on the subset of kind of tuned in people who haven't switched off and who have a way to basically monetize their knowledge, monetize the fact that they know something has happened. So just to give one example, I'm currently in Eigenlayer with some ETH, and I would want to know when the AVS slashing goes live on mainnet. I think that's a key thing that people want to know, but it's not easy to know exactly when that happens without following a bunch of channels or being, online all the time. So I'd be setting up a scenario. We call them a scenario, saying, tell me when that happens. And then you can get notified to your email or to Telegram at the moment. And those people who are tuned in and are aware that's happened can simply, through consensus or agreement, trigger a notification that has happened when it does. And think of it sort of like a bounty where a pool of users are wanting that information. They're paying a small fee for it. There's a bounty there to be the first to accurately trigger the notification that has happened, and you can claim a share of that bounty. So there's a lot more kind of detail to it than that. There's like tiers of assurance that you'll be getting the right information. You can ask for 1 confirm, or you can ask for 10 or 20 to increase the assurance that you're getting an accurate confirmation. But yeah, it really relies on kind of the free market theory that if there's good incentives and good penalties in place, you will then be able to dial it in so that you're getting the right information and people are acting honestly.
So this is, it's kind of like a Web3 version of a subscribe button, but you're subscribing to you could be subscribing to entire groups of people with their wealth of knowledge. Like, does it then, it's like a reputation thing where, let me back up. If I'm on Twitter right now, you could see like a spam tweet that comes along that's like, oh, hurry, act now, claim your tokens. But then there's 50 other accounts that are also saying the same thing, which might be enough of a signal to somebody to go ahead and participate, and then they end up getting scammed. What this does, if I'm following it all, is there's like a reputation part of this to where like when certain people say certain things, you can expect the level of legitimacy to go up. Is that then like a threshold where it triggers a notification for you? It's like, okay, 6 of the 10 people I trust have said the same thing. It must be true. So that, am I following?
It's amazing how you hit the nail on the head so quickly. Like the word reputation is an absolute big feature of what we're doing.
Okay.
So one of the early access things that's already live is essentially building your reputation score now. So by doing certain things now and into the future, users are developing and growing a reputation on the platform, and that reputation then allows them to have certain rights, such as to be a confirmer. So at the moment, there's less you can do to do that, but as we go, there'll be more things that you can add to your profile that help paint a picture of you as someone who is trustworthy. And obviously, being a Web3 or a crypto project, there's an element here that is, sibling and things like that to consider. So that's where tokenomics and slashing and collateral also play a role, but not the only role. So it's exactly right. And there's so many ways we can do this that we are looking at. And one of them is something like you said, where particular confirmers may have a history of high performance especially on certain topics. So we can see it being the case that down the line there's specializations. I might personally specialize in Ethereum, fantasy football, a few other topics, maybe even certain clubs or those sorts of things. So I might be like a really high-ranked confirmer on my niche topics with a strong history of accurate, fast confirmation triggering. And those that are asking for alerts on those topics can possibly, be very happy to know that those are the people that are confirming when they're unable to be tuned in.
Okay, so, we kind of do this homebrew thing with this Doots podcast. It's, but it's all hand curated. It's subjectively chosen comments get to the top 10 of the daily, which then those top 10s for all those different days get aggregated into a top of the weekly, and then eventually gets to a podcast. But what I'm getting at is we have like this whole leaderboard and stuff. So people who have been dooted or nominated by Tricky Troll or the A Word, they receive a point for making it to the list. So this is a similar thing, except this is more like the people can kind of upvote different individuals. For instance, if I'm in here as a lowly Redditor, and I give some good signal, but I'm not like an Anthony Sassano type person. Like those people could walk in and they could really move the room and the decision making of the protocol. So how does I don't know if the word civil resistance play into this so much as what is the account? Is it based off of Twitter, or is a scenario its own social media layer that people have their own scenario account and the content is driven on that platform as a forum?
It's a great question, and I think the answer is we can do a range of things. So we're starting out with this plan that it is mostly within the world of scenario. So you're building a reputation score both off and on chain through your actions on the scenario protocol. And it really is that old crypto idea of aligning incentives and crypto economic incentives. So if you continually provide good, accurate confirmations, your history will improve, your record is strong, maybe you're getting some economic incentives for doing that. But if you jump on and you consistently provide bad advice, those will be disputed. You might be slashed, your reputation score will drop. So your ability to continually be a bad actor is reducing over time through the system itself. But what we could absolutely be doing is connecting it to other platforms as well. Like you're saying, you could certainly then tie in other social metrics. So, at the moment, there's a way to connect your social media accounts to in the early access phase. And it would be very easy for us to then consider those factors as well as the sort of in-house metrics. But either you did a very good job of your pre-reading, or you're very good at hitting the key words, because you said signal before.
I didn't read. Listen, I was worried about the internet. I was worried about making thumbnails. I'll be quite honest. I didn't read anything except like the tagline, and it kind of the tagline really kind of helped with my head. I got to find where it says specify what you want to know, get alerted when it happens. It's really that simple. And that was like, oh, okay. So it kind of made sense just in the tagline to me. It's literal intuition. But go ahead. You said signal.
Yeah, the fact that you've said reputation and signal. So, one of our other kind of slogans is separate the signal from the noise.
Yeah.
And I think I've got a bit of a kind of funny story around this, which is that, we are in this early access phase right now. And what we've got is just nine team created scenarios that we've made. So they're just sitting there as, 3 rows of 3. They're the ones that you can click alert me kind of now in our early access phase. But guess who has to trigger them? Currently, the team.
Is this
will be triggering those?
This page here?
Exactly. That's
Base
the one.
makes any announcement about Base token. So if Base says anything about a Base token, you could have the alert. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we had this situation. We're setting up and getting ready to do our early access launch, and of course, the future vision is that a group of decentralized actors permissionlessly can act as confirmers. So we need a big, broad group of people who are experts on certain topics, or they're engaged, and they can come along and be triggering these alerts and benefiting from doing so. But at the moment, we've got these 9 that the team has made and that the team will be triggering. So myself and Andy, the co-founder, and I were sitting there getting ready to do that. We need to be ready to trigger these. So I'm like, okay, we need to follow. We're each following, all the right Twitter accounts, Eigenlayer, Base. We're making sure we've both got the bell set for them. And we're just seeing like how hard it's going to be. Like without scenario, we're going to have to be remaining tuned in. And I've already been getting so many unrelated group of decentralized, slightly annoying alerts from Base and Eigenlayer that are not the thing I'm waiting to hear about. So I'm having to filter through all this noise and wait for the one thing to happen. Whereas what we expect to happen is when this is fully live, of course, there are some people who are going to hear when these things happen, and it's a little bit of a race to be the first or one of the first to correctly trigger these things and sort of claim the bounty. So it's really relying on the market itself.
So it's got a gamification to it. It's kind of like on Reddit, like people that Reddit has it set up to where you can see how many times, if you use Reddit Enhancement Suite, you can see how many times that you've upvoted a certain individual. Yeah, so that's kind of baked in. Does Scenario how would Scenario track who got there first? Was it because they shared the tweet that was the original tweet before anybody else did, and that's
on-chain?
That's an on-chain permutation or whatever, or
you make claims.
Yeah, essentially,
right? That's on-chain. So the chain is the sequencer.
Okay, that sums it up.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think what we're looking at, really, to be honest, is it's going to be a bit of an arms race where if the bounties are appealing to trigger particular scenarios, then you're going to have a combination of human actors and human actors using AI or other tools to outcompete each other to be the fastest.
Or AI using human actors.
yeah. AI acting in its own right. But yeah, then as Logri is saying, it's an on-chain kind of element there where that is the contract itself is clicking and triggering a transaction to say that
X or on the YouTubes, you can jump in Discord, get in the public stage on the EV Mavericks Discord if you want to come in and drop some questions while we discuss. So you have 9 different things here that are kind of kicking off. So to back up, Scenario Protocol they went live yesterday, right? Did I get that right? Yesterday or day before?
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday my time. It's probably you're in the future, so it's probably 2 days ago from the future.
I'll go with that.
So he's got a referral code. Do you want to drop a referral code? Because maybe while we're on the call, people could set up their accounts and get started, and maybe get that gamification started early.
For sure. Yeah, basically Mavericks. Just one word, Mavericks. Will get you in. And yeah, we'd love to see people from whether we call it the EV Mavericks or Ethfinance or Ethereum Reddit community in. Because in my mind, it's always been, I would love to have a group of that people as part of our early user base. Because I think, like I was saying before, I think it's probably the best place to go right now for Signal, personally, that subreddit. And so we would love that kind of knowledge base to be part of our early user group and potentially becoming confirmers once we open it up to the public sort of free market element, which won't be very far away, because I do not want to be personally responsible for triggering all the notifications myself for very long.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, as a Reddit mod, the amount of handmade actions I got to take to approve different things, I get it. And, you want to scale this, obviously, beyond just this initial phase to where it just kind of runs and does its thing.
Totally.
Logri the Bard, do you want to add anything to the conversation here?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I think are less stated about this because it's not the primary use case. But one is that this is a new type of oracle, right? So we have things like Chainlink, which are used for events that happen again and again and again, like price feeds. We have things like UMA for events that are going to have an expiry at a known time. And then we have a new type of oracle here for events that are going to happen at an unknown time, right? Which is a fundamentally new category of technology. And you can have your chain contracts subscribe to events on Scenario and potentially have your chain contracts react to these off-world events that are occurring, right? So you could, for example, you could have a process on Gelato that's set up to listen to the emitted events on chain when this happens, whether it's when you reach a certain threshold or whatever, and then it could fire off some pre-coded message to a trade. So you could say, like, when this news happens. I want to buy into this token that's related to that news. And that could all be set up through the chain now, right? Because there's on-chain data to do that. And there's money behind the attestations of the people that are making that news happen. There's reputation behind it, as opposed to a bunch of like Twitter fake news and whatever's socializing, right? Something at stake changes the nature of the game a lot. So you could see how you'd be like, when if Coinbase was to tokenize their stock, and I think they will at some point, there will be an on-chain coin tradable thing. It could be like, when Base becomes a stage 1 rollup, then go ahead and buy a bunch of coin stock in response to that, right? You could have a basically what they call a limit order, but basically it's a pre-signed market order through some like Uniswap to buy it, and voila, right? It would just, you wouldn't have to be online all day to catch the news and profit from that news if you were set up to do so. So there's money actually on the user side that I think will come out of this as people discover that this technology is, once it becomes reliable, right? And I think it's understated. This is just an entirely new type of subjective consensus oracle based on the conditions that we don't know when the event is going to occur, as opposed to with UMA where there's a known expiry. So we can get all these people into a room and they can have a sort of encrypted commitment before a deadline, and then a reveal before another deadline, and then Oracle that gels all those together into some final result, right? Instead, this goes with basically an optimistic resolution, and then there's disputes, and the disputes follow the usual kind of subjective consensus schemes that we've seen for things like Augur and poly markets and whatnot over time.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Logan, because before I jumped on, Andy was telling me, make sure you don't just talk about the alerts in their own right, that this is possibly bigger, broader than that, and can be used for other things. It is an oracle, absolutely, at its core as well. The other thing I find really interesting is your example there about Base, going public. I think the idea of whether we call it insider information or just those that are closest to the source of the knowledge. So what we want is accurate triggering of these things. We want accurate agreement that things have happened. And what you might see in future, I think, is those people who are in the team or in the tent or maybe even the very source of the information, they can personally benefit from this as well. And as long as it's accurate, then that's really what matters. So I think in the case of, a certain company going public or something like that, there's a chain of knowledge that comes out to the public eventually, but there's also like that kind of insider information, or when a certain document is filed, a request to incorporate those sorts of things. If something gets in the hands of someone who can then be like, okay, I can jump on scenario and actually trigger that this is happening or about to happen or has just happened. I think it makes it very interesting, because if there's a bounty there, it's possibly one of the quickest ways to hear about things from those that are nearest to the source of knowledge, if they themselves want to act as a confirmer as well.
What about, can other people propose scenarios? Did I miss that part of the conversation? Down the road, is this going to be let's say, JT Nickel, talking about myself in third person, really wants to know about a new McCormick barbecue rub seasoning or some innocuous thing where it's like, I will pay 50 USDC to the person that gets me to the front of the line first. Is this a community-led proposal thing? Kind of like, for lack of a better example, Polymarket or something like that?
Absolutely, it is. That is really the absolute core idea of this. That it has to be like that. There's no point it being gate kept where you can't actually hear what you want to know about, when the whole premise is hear what you want to know about. So it'll be completely open. And we're about to enter a phase within a few days where you can jump on and start to put some pre-launch entries in. So you can start to tell us the sorts of things you are waiting for or would be waiting for. And then they'll be published to the site, and people can kind of say, yeah, look, I also would like to hear about that. And that sort of also be connected to the reputation score element as well. But no, that's really important. And that's why it's sort of a long tail sort of protocol, where it's our job is to make an interface that makes it extremely easy to search, sort, tag, track, the long tail of things that people are creating. And that's why I think there'll be niche topics that people specialize in and others that they don't want to follow and don't try to be confirmers on. But as an oracle, it is much more likely to be a very long tail of quite sort of dispersed, interesting, varied topics that are sitting there on chain ready to be triggered when they've happened. And then we just need an engaged confirmer set with a broad and varied knowledge base that are following some of those based on their own interests. Because I think if we took Ethereum as an example, the people in the subreddit would be the perfect people to track all Ethereum related niche topics, but none of the Solana ones possibly. But then you'd have other people in the other community who would be following other ones and maybe trying to confirm those.
This is you can't connect Reddit accounts to Scenario, right? Because the API is not open. I was wondering, but Twitter API is open, right? So I was curious if, let's say Logri the Bard and you and me and the EV Mavericks Twitter handles, and DC Investor and Anthony Sassano, to use him again. All of us follow each other on Twitter, but all of us are also on Scenario. Is there a way that the Twitter API allows you to track the number of times you upvote or one of their comments? Is that a thing that gets fed into the machine?
Well, every time I ask Andy, because obviously we've got currently two co-founders, and I'm the non-technical co-founder and he's the technical one.
Hey, that's funny. I'm the non-technical podcast host and Logri's the technical.
Yeah. So Logri, I'm sure, can give a better answer here than me. But whenever I ask Andy these questions, he's like, "Yeah, we can do it. It's just a question of the execution, those sorts of things." But I think our goal will be to focus on not taking off too big a bite at the start. So keeping it focused at the start, and then adding layers to this reputation score as we go. And there's so many ways that can be done, both on chain and off chain, and that's what's quite exciting about it, I think.
Logri, do you have any insight as to whether or not the Twitter API could be fed into the Scenario side? A number of likes and retweets and stuff?
Again, it's subjective consensus. So it's not as though the chain is aware of what's going on Twitter. So it's really someone is coming in and making a claim that something happened. Yep. So if you want to say this tweet got 100 upvotes or whatever, likes, and or a tweet from this account got 100 likes, you could totally set that up as a scenario, right? And someone comes in and makes an attestation, and the scenario layer is completely agnostic as to the fact that it came from Twitter at all. What a tweet is, what an upvote is, doesn't have to know any of that. This is about an attestation from someone that looked at some event off chain and is now oracling that information to the chain, right? Now, in terms of the reputation of social media, if we want to feed that in as a signal, right? That itself is something that's driven by an off-chain sort of centralized process. Like the reputation system is not. It's not so as though everyone can come and bring their own reputation system to it, right? There's the one that's built into Scenario that's going to be the official one. Could you feed something about Twitter into that? Yeah, absolutely, right? It's totally up to their control. Could they? Yes. It's about what do they want to do, right? Mm-hmm. And then the output, right? The other thing that could integrate with Twitter is you could have the alert that you set up. So like this works like most other alerting systems, in that you can have it say, when you alert me, text me. When you alert me, send me an email. When you alert me, post with this Twitter account and, or post something and at me on Twitter, right? Like we can set up all kinds of different ways that alerts. When you alert me, then, create a gelato style event that someone will then execute and, write to chain, or create a transaction with account abstraction that will let me, whatever. Like all these are different outcomes of the alert. Like how you write to that, what side effect it has in the world is something that's extensible over time as well.
Excellent. Okay. So I just set up my account. I got everything plugged in. I completed my profile. I added an Ethereum address. I put a profile picture, connected my Twitter, my Telegram, my Discord. And now I need to join 3 scenarios. So Let's do it live, huh? And I'm on the leaderboard. I made it. I made it on the leaderboard. My mom is going to be so happy. I do like this. Alert me if Base makes any announcement about a Base token. So good. Check my notification. I'm all set. Okay. And change your notification settings to be email or Telegram. Lovely. Let's go back to the right here. Eigenlayer, no. An AI system passes the speech Turing test? Yeah, I want to be alerted to that. Close. Reputation scoring system first starts rewarding user-created scenarios. Testnet app goes live on Base. Scenario announces early access NFT. I'm going to do that one too. Okay, good. And I can do at least 3. I could do all 9 of them if I wanted.
You can do all 9 if that's your wish.
Might as well.
JT. Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. So now that I did that, let's see. Oh, I'm up on the leaderboard. Look at that number. This is how early we are. This is 0 day plus 1 or something like that. Treebeard, you dog. He's 20 points ahead of me already. We got to go. Okay. I noticed that Ben Broad is on here too. They're both in the audience. Okay. So what's next? Okay, you've done the launch. People can join with the code. Let's do that code again. Referral is Mavericks. If you want to jump into scenarioprotocol.io and then get started with the referral code Mavericks, you will literally be one of not even 25 people right now. You could be in the top 100 people that have joined this protocol. Advised by Logri the Bard, our technical interviewer here on the Doots podcast. What's next on the horizon for Scenario?
A lot. So we, within a week, are going to be opening up the ability for people to start entering in scenarios of their own. And we're calling them entries because they're going to start out as non-live requests. So within a few days, I think that'll be up. So you'll be able to jump in and just go for it. Basically start entering in the sorts of things you want to hear about and that you're waiting on. There'll be a slight process there where either the team or a combination of team and AI is just moderating them for quality or spam, those sorts of things, and then including them on the list of pre-launch entries. So that's the next thing. And the way I think of that is sort of you're pre-populating the app with the sorts of things you would like to hear about for when it does fully launch. Oh. It's a chance to, really get started thinking about what sorts of things you'd like to be getting alerted about when it does go live. And then, we've got a testnet planned for Base following that. There will be an NFT following that, which I think is alluded to in one of the scenarios that are live now. So think of it as a way to be one of the first confirmers, partly, among other things. But there'll be a limited number of NFTs that we have as kind of a launch, Genesis launch NFT when we go live fully. And then, from that point on, it's about us trying to grow because really it is a two-sided marketplace, and it's that cold start thing of you need some people that are there ready to act as confirmers if they'd like to. So we will need to have a role in making that an appealing process for people. So attaching a bounty to each live scenario, whether it was a team created or a user created scenario, so that when you do trigger it, you're getting some sort of there's an incentive attached to doing that. And then we will also be working with people like Logri to dial in the overall reputation scoring system and the penalties associated with, for example, if you act badly or you provide incorrect triggering of alerts and those sorts of things. So really exciting time and a lot to do.
How many team members do you have?
We have the 2 of us at the moment and a third that's just coming on board. So it's small and we're just getting started. And so we'll be looking at trying to grow the team for sure as well.
Who are you looking for? What kind of roles or jobs are you looking to open up in the next 12 months?
We're definitely going to be wanting to add one more technical role at least, and we're also looking to add at least 1 or 2 community members who could help us with engagement and presence in our Discord and sort of helping us run that, because we've only just opened that up as well. But like we talked about earlier, there's so many directions this can go in. So it's about us picking, being clever about setting boundaries for ourselves and doing something really well. And that'll probably inform, when there is new directions we can go, that'll also inform how the team grows.
My ask would be stop by the daily on our Ethereum and drop in updates about your protocol. We have a weekly thread at the top. Although I am considering, because the weekly thread doesn't get a lot of traction, maybe asking the moderators up in the ivory tower if we want to try to redo that sticky into something else. But certainly in the daily thread, if there's any updates to the scenario protocol, I mean, we want to hear about Ethereum aligned projects such as this on a routine basis. And this is all. It's always fun to watch people build stuff and do things like this on chain. What if there's a hack in an account? How does their reputation get affected? What is the mechanism by which a compromised account would be handled?
It's a great question. So there's a few parts to that. One is, again, like Logri said before, it's about the way it would unfold in practice, I think, is that there would be a scenario live, a bounty there to be claimed, and there'll be cases where that's been set up so it may only need one person to act as the confirmer to trigger it. But what we actually think is more likely is that it might be 5 or 10, depends again on the size of the bounty and also what the person asking for that alert wanted, like whether they wanted stronger assurances. So we could set it up where it's purely a numbers game. So you say, look, tell me when this thing happens and I'm happy to have 3 people be enough to trigger this. Or you could have it a reputation based, where I want at least one of the confirmers to have a reputation score of X, to have been active for Y months on the platform, and to have never had a dispute lodged against them. So those are ways we can sort of protect slightly against these sorts of things. But the way it would unfold in practice is if an incorrect or dishonest alert was sent, the person who set it up or anyone else who was getting it can lodge a dispute, essentially to say, look, I think this was wrong, whether that was through malicious action or a mistake. And then those people in future who are connected to the tokenomic system can act as arbitrators on that. And of course be slashed potentially very aggressively if they're continually acting in a bad way. That's where the incentive alignment needs to be correct, so that you do have skin in the game. You have something to lose if you do a poor job, and you have something to gain if you do a good job. And there are ways for that to be handled. The other thing that I find interesting about this as an oracle is, until we become connected to DeFi protocols, or until we become connected to prediction markets, the worst thing at stake currently will be that someone got an alert that was not right. So in some ways that is reassuring for us at the start. So it's not that suddenly we're going to be liquidating some huge pool of money in a DeFi protocol through one person having sent the wrong alert. That could happen in future, though. If we become connected to, as a use as an oracle, we need to be very, very confident that we've got a system in place that has been battle tested through this journey to get to that stage when it's ready to be connected for that sort of use case. But at the moment, it might just be that I get told that AVS slashing on Eigenlayer has happened and it hasn't. And I get a bit annoyed and maybe I'll lodge a dispute about that within the system. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Before we move on with the rest of the show, is there anything else? Where can people follow you? Where can people follow the project?
Yeah, so on X, it's just at Scenario Alerts is the handle.
Okay.
And we'd love some help from this group if you want to kind of, I think we already did a post a little while ago sort of calling out the EV Mavericks and saying, hey, you're going to be one of the groups of people we want to work with and be close to on this. So there's a little bit of that there, and I think a lot of our followers are already EV Mavericks. But if we can get any help from this group to talk about it, or especially next week, I think when we are encouraging users to start putting in their own entries and things that they would like to see be scenarios, we'd love to see you sharing that. And we've got some things set up so that you'll be rewarded potentially as well from a reputation side for, sharing particular scenarios you've created and seeing who else would want to join that when it was live and who else would want to hear about that too. But yeah, if you head to scenarioprotocol.io, you'll see all of our links down the bottom. There's a blog, there's obviously Twitter, there's a Discord that you can jump into as well.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So, yep, scenarioprotocol.io. All the links are at the bottom. Blog, X, Discord, and more. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. We had a rocky start to the day. For those of you that are just tuning in, Steve is he's way south of the United States, like all the way south, and he's in the future down in Australia. And then he was already up super early for this podcast. We were slated to start at, I think, 5 a.m. your time, and my internet went out, so we had a kind of a slow start getting going. But then the Spectrum wizards, Spectrum's the internet service provider, got their magic wands out, and we were able to go live. And I'm so glad we didn't have to punt until next Tuesday. Steve, thanks so much for stopping by. We've got another part of the show where I read Reddit so you don't have to. And if you can stick around for part of that and be our color commentator, that's great. If you want to go get a cup of coffee and continue to wake up, otherwise you could give us an Irish goodbye if you're ready to climb right back in bed.
No, I'm happy to hang out for a bit, but if anyone has any questions as well, I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have too.
Yeah, if anybody down in the audience on Discord, we do this live on Discord. If you're watching us on X or on YouTube, just raise your hand. Treebeard is standing by. He can get you up on stage if you want to make some comments or ask some questions about Scenario Protocol or really anything else as we begin the next part of the show, which is our Daily Doots portion of the show. All right. So this is a really fun thing that we do on Reddit. For those of you who don't know, the Weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the week from the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum. It's a read-along reaction series, and if you want to follow along, head on over to dailydoots.com, designed and produced by our very own Hani Abu. Big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing and curating each of these days' Doots, and the A word for curating this beloved weekly list. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple or iTunes. Just search Ethfinance EV Mavericks. We're also available on Libsyn, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And after the show, you'll get to mint this episode at pods.media/EV Mavericks. All right, here we go. We're going to do the rundown for the rich list for this week. We have 1,173 duders have made the list. Coming in at number 10, 106. Number 10 with 106 at one less. 696 at 111. Crypto Currency at 116. Hani Abu at 117. Ethical Trade at 118. Boy, they are stacked up. Neck to neck to neck. Tricky Troll at 145. Benito 2030 at 167. Harog jumps up to 180. He got duded like 5 times this last week. Logri the Bard still climbing on to number 2 at 184. And Superfizz atop the heap at 219. All right, we got plenty of upcoming events. Let's see. Looks like we have some older events here that are already passed, but that's okay. We'll get that updated. Looks like Pondicherry, India is coming up March 28th through the 30th, April 1st to the 2nd. ETH Taipei, ETH Bucharest, April 2nd through the 5th. April 3rd, Pragma Taipei, that's in Taiwan. And then ETH Global Taipei, the big show, April 4th through the 6th. And then we have ZK Hack in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, April 11th through the 13th. Yeah, I don't think we got much going on in Pyongyang yet. Let's see. I think we got the current daily, the previous daily. He has switched up the site, so I want to make sure I get to the right place here. I think I go to podcast. Upcoming guests. We got Brad from Mega ETH joining us next Friday. Grant Hummer from Etherealize on March 28th, maybe with Danny Ryan. I'm keeping my fingers crossed there.
I was told that Grant might be in DC talking to David Sachs that day.
So
so
he might be.
We may have to reschedule. I don't know what Danny Ryan will be up to. I'm poking them both to see if we can make that happen still.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to Etherealize.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Etherealize too. We're going to leave them on. I mean, even if they just drop by for like 15 minutes, that would be like stupid dope. So, okay, good. Chris and Jordan joining us on April 4th from summer.fi. And then Ram Aliwali, we had to punt from last week because the market turmoil took him back to his cuck wage job, which actually probably pays more than about anybody I know. Ram Aliwali from Lumina Wealth going to be hanging out on April 11th, April 18th. Tobias Schreier from Grow the Pie. Grow the Pie's got a person that's coming in and doing some doots, and they're climbing up the list super fast too. Be on the watch out. Also, before I move on, I want to go back to that leaderboard. We had 1,170 people. This last week was a record-setting week for brand new duders to make the list. I think it was 8 or 9 people made it to the list for the first time. So hats off to the newcomers to the Doots list. Keep on keeping on in that daily thread. We've been rocking busy lately. I know the price action kind of brings people in, whether it's good or bad, but we've had a lot of really good quality contributors showing up, maybe coming out of the woodwork and deciding to make the changes they'd like to see on Reddit. So hats off to you guys. This title was incorrect. It should not be Andy. It should be Steve. But anyway, Scenario Protocol. All right, the morning roundup. Here we go. Day trader by H says Ethereum. ETH Zen says the price is $1,893. I think we're up a little bit. From that, I don't even want to check. I don't want to jinx it. I can say this. I can't say who, and I can't say who they were talking to, but there was an EV Maverick discussing stuff about crypto in the White House today. So that's kind of fun. All right. Frank the Tank gave us a dismal ratio readout of 0.023. And then Better Lucky Than Good says the Homestead update officially went live on March 14th, 2016. I remember. At block 1.150 million. It was the first planned hard fork of the network, moving it from its initial frontier phase. A weekly haiku comes to us by way of JS Tears. Not living the dream, laughing out loud for the meme. Pour one for the team. How does he do it? JS Tears, how do you do it? Those weekly haikus coming in hot. Chota time. That's right. ETH, take my energy. And of course, Dr. ETH with the stats. We got all kinds of stats on the supply and the price over the last day, 7 days, and 30 days. I was like looking at these ETF flows he puts in here. The total ETF flow, 2,585 million. Outflow looks like down 105 million the last 3 days, and the total ETF flow in the last recorded day down 73.6 million. All right, and he's got all the breakdown. All those stats provided courtesy of Ultrasound Money, Farside, and CoinGlass. Our shit post of the week. Oh, thank goodness. I actually nominated this to be shit post of the week. It was so freaking good. I love this so much. By Eternal Shadow Band, who, by the way, on this account was their first doot. I think they had a previous account with some doots, but on this account, this was a first-time dooter, was a banger of a shitpost. Here we go. A 4.69% move from here is $1,968. Guess what happens when we get to 1968? That's right. Terry Crews is born, and he slaps the crab so hard it flies back to where it belongs, the ocean. And what's there in the ocean? That's right, an ancient secret underwater citadel where the Atlanteans have been hoarding all the liquidity of the past years. The second crab splashes down. It triggers a long-forgotten smart contract written in a whale song, unlocking trillions in submerged Ethereum reserves. At this point, Terry Crews, now infused with the raw power of decentralized finance, flexes so hard that his gas is bottled and is used for paying for transactions on Ethereum. Vitalik appears out of nowhere, riding a cybernetic dolphin, and declares that he will now eat steaks for breakfast. And for each steak eaten, he will recompense its owner with double the amount of ETH. people and institutions line up to stake Ethereum. The SEC panics. Wall Street collapses into a singularity of pure cope. Everybody gets to sell at 10K and is finally financially independently. Oh my God, what a funny... That is your shit post of the week. Great job. Eternal Shadow Ban. Well done. Well done. All right. Tim with Not Tool Belt wants to get back to the basics, and user Mora Fresa is here for the values. Let's see those people. Tim Not Tool Belt. Tim with Not Tool Belt is a duder number 7. And let's see, I'm trying to find the other person's score, but I'll just go back to the page. All right, Tim says, I don't come here to read about Bitcoin, Solana, XRP, and American politics. Whew, ain't that the truth? The idea that these are somehow relevant to Ethereum's success is misguided at best. Don't get me wrong. I do believe Ethereum price is most dependent on BTC still. But I also believe the community continuing to focus on BTC is not beneficial for ETH price and definitely not for Ethereum's success. Why does Ethereum win? It's not because it overtakes BTC or BTC fails. It's not even in competition with Solana. It doesn't win because Trump pumps and dumps it. It wins because it's a decentralized, permissionless network that can benefit everyone. Automation is here more than ever, and Ethereum is the automation of value. Let's get back to the basics and stop falling for the distractions and concerned trolling. Gas is sub one way. If you want to know why the price isn't skyrocketing, that's the reason. And it ain't the EF's fault either. And then user Mora Fresa responds, this is a duder number 1, by the way. I just really hope for Ethereum to be the crypto of cypherpunk values that I originally fell in love with, an actual progressive means for society to move forward. All other projects that aren't, including Bitcoin. And the whole space has been co-opted by greedy, power-hungry imbeciles. Well said. Well said. Mora Fresa, duder number 1, Tim with Not Tool Belt on the bangings. Basics, getting back to it. Well said. All right, moving on down the list. Christian C750 thinks that Ethereum already has its path to success with stablecoins. ETH has the stablecoin network effect captured. If and or when the U.S. fully regulates stablecoins such that every bank, point of sale terminal, and website can consume it as a form of payment, how much scale alone would that bring to the ETH network and its L2s? Just off an already established use case. We might be missing the forest for the trees here. It's funny because I remember how dumb I thought Apple Pay was when it first announced. I have my credit card already in my wallet. Years later, once all the new point of sale machines got adopted, I'm angry if I have to go into my wallet. Yeah. It sort of felt the same with stables and dexes. They felt so useless until you start using them. Moving my money around so freely is just how it should be. Honestly, for any sports bettors out there, try using a site like ThunderPick that has USDC withdrawals. Stablecoins are also programmable with APIs for those who have never developed before. They make moving money in an app or corporate treasury so easy. I could go on and on. I know they are boring and not Moonboy memes, but if we all remain ETH bulls, we need to remember real-world use is what ultimately consumes gas. For example, drives ETH demand. Stablecoins are it, and they are on ETH. Let's get them into the hands of the people. They are just infinitely better forms of payment and remittance all rolled into one. Well said. Well said. Christian C750 this week is a duder number 2, a relative newcomer to the charts. Good job. All right, moving on. Bitcoin Baller 420. Boy, what a username that is.
In the Lion's Den, right? Coming with a username like Bitcoin Baller 420 onto the Ethereum channel, right?
I love it.
It's actually pretty respectful. I gotta say, I'm surprised.
I know. I love it. I love all that stuff. Bitcoin Baller 420. Ask why they should hold ETH and get some amazing responses from SM3GH34D.
Hey, JT,
yes,
you've got a bunch of comments kind of over the text here, so it's a little hard to read along with you.
Gotcha. Good job. Thank you. Good call. All right. SM3GHD34D and Logri the Bard respond. Bitcoin Baller 420 is coming in on the Doots chant on a Doots list at number 1. Lots of first-time duders getting on the show today. They ask why they should hold ETH. Bitcoin Baller writes, I used to have a substantial portion of my net assets in ETH, and now I own almost none. I'm looking for someone to change my mind. I've only shifted on a couple of concerns. I see the value of decentralization and ensuring complete trustless computation. I see that ETH has a mode of some kind as the first to try to be a world computer and most adoption, at least by some metrics, I'm sure. My questions are these. Can you say more to convince me that the ETH's moat is based on some kind of network effect? I think the core argument is that decentralization and trustlessness are network effects, and these allow the most users to participate, and I accept this. My concern is that maybe the security only needs to match the level of the transaction, and as such, there's more room for competition from something like, say, Solana to trade off security for improvements in other dimensions. And in the end, the users want cheap. They don't care about the protocol. What am I missing? Disclosure. I own less than $20 worth of SOL. Point number 2. I'm also concerned about the disconnect between the goals of the devs and the goals of the investors. Aha. The investors, of course, want the values of the coins to increase, I assume, but the devs, while they are surely also holders, are also acting to help the consumers of the network, who want the coin to be as close to free as possible. So while dev improvements to improve throughput and reduce transaction fees are great for the users of the network, they are only good for the investors if they also result in so much more demand that it offsets the reduction in demand caused by the improvement, implicit in, say, the reduction of fees. Users want to buy as little as possible to get their code executed. I think the argument is that the burning of ETH when the network gets more usage offsets to balance the desires of investors and users. But I'm not smart enough to intuit whether this kind of balancing will work out for the investors or not. Considering my uncertainty, it doesn't quite reach the hurdle rate of risk on return on risk for me, but it's close. Maybe a few more words of education would help. I'm going to pause just for a second. That is a high quality, critical post that you will not get on Twitter. It looks so much like FUD and concern trolling when it's a short little blurb, but this person has framed the questions they have so eloquently and intelligently. You know it's going to spur a great conversation out of our group.
And we don't doubt about that.
And it did.
You can be as bearish as you want if you are elegant about it and willing to have a good conversation like you're in the same room.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, before I go on with the responses from these two Redditors, Steve, you DM me, you said you got to head out for now, yeah? Okay. Well, listen, keep us up to date in the daily. Come by anytime. Let us know how it's going. We can get you back on the podcast in the future for an update, okay? Thanks so much. All right. We'll see you later. Thanks so much. That was Steve from Scenario Protocol on the pod today. Thanks so much for stopping by. Get some sleep, buddy. Get some sleep. I know he's got to be tired. All right. So we got the questions from Bitcoin Baller 420. Here comes the replies about the concern. All right, from SM3GHD GH34D. I wish that I'm trying to see how that's supposed to be read if I was to read that name out, because I think the 3 might be an E. I don't know. Both of your points, I think, are related to long-term versus short-term visions. Good point. Ethereum core devs are aware of price impacts, but are more interested in adoption and scaling without compromising on trustlessness. Here we go. Decentralization, censorship resistance, etc. I don't think Vitalik and EF Research would characterize the push for cheap block space as, quote, growing the moat. But in my opinion, that is the underlying strategy. As a dev and a holder and a solo staker, I am ambivalent about the direction we are taking to increase block space without regard for protocol revenue in the short term. It is very much a, quote, loss-leading adoption to play. The 48 of 72 blobs by end of year and layer 1 gas limit increases in the ballpark of 2 to 10x are the focus in the current climate of record low gas prices, shows how little Vitalik and research are concerned about protocol revenue in the short term. I think the value prop of Ethereum lies in long-term time horizon. I don't see any fundamental price catalysts on the horizon. It's basically a race to see whether Ethereum's roadmap can play out faster than its competitors. The only viable competitor presently is Solana. The TLDR, my opinion, is that if you're looking to speculate on ETH price, the winning play is to DCA in the bear, which arguably has already started. Expect to pay off or write off in 4 years. All right. Logri the Bard. I'm going to fix my thing here. There we go. Logri the Bard also quotes, can you say more to convince me ETH's mode is based on some kind of network effect? Logri writes, there is definitely momentum to capital being drawn to other capital. Having capital in a protocol for a long time without hacks is its own type of proof of security. So when more capital wants to deploy, it chooses the protocol with the best security record. Users may care about a 5-cent transaction fee, but hundreds of billions of dollars of bank deposits coming to the chain or tokenized securities marketplace won't care about that nearly as much as security. There is also the fact that Ethereum has never once had downtime since inception. That's right. This is Sparta! There's also the fact, let's see, did I get it? Did I get back? I went back. Since its inception, which cannot be said of Solana or Ripple, even in the last year. That's just it for me. Like the conversation stops with those other chains as soon as they go down like that. Multiple times. I frankly think the market undervalues decentralization. Yes, I agree, Logri, to the extent they even understand it at all. I agree with you that the security only needs to match the level of the transaction. That's basically the point of Ethereum's L2 model. It's worth noting that Solana isn't practically much cheaper than most Ethereum L2s at this point. The TPS numbers of Solana are deliberately misleading in that they include validator gossip, where Ethereum's TPS numbers do not. I remember reading something about that. Ethereum will outscale Solana for fundamental reasons. Maybe read Polinia's blog if you're curious. Polinia on Reddit used to be liberosist, if you're unclear of the connection. He was posting in 2021 about fundamental truths that Solana will never be able to address with their approach. And then Logri also quotes Bitcoin 420. I'm also concerned about the disconnect between the goals of the devs and the goals of the investors. Logri continues to reply. The most valid complaint I've seen is that the EF wants to take no part in advocacy role in the ecosystem. Bitcoin has no foundation, so their ecosystem picks up this role themselves. Solana has the Solana Foundation, which takes up this mantle themselves willingly. Ethereum has this kind of void where an advocacy department should be. This makes investors feel deprioritized, as all the EF focuses on all of the EF focuses on is tech. Etherealize was launched earlier this year to address this gap. Give it a few months to spin up. I think the people involved are genuine and capable. Regarding the burn model, just think of it as a socialized reward to everyone who holds ETH. Inflation is a wealth tax. Burn is the opposite of inflation. for ETH price to grow significantly. We just want the network to scale to thousands of blobs per block with very cheap blobs. I read a Vitalik post recently that said if the current rock bottom blob prices were maintained as the network scales according to its plan, we would be seeing 3% deflation. No other blockchain has a monetary policy that comes close to that. But for that vision to come true, we need a lot of adoption. Right now, infra is ahead of the apps. Well said. Well said. Great job, Logri. Yeah, that was a great question too, honestly. Bitcoin Baller 420, good job. Appreciate it. All right, looks like we've had quite a few people stopping by on X. Hope you're enjoying the show on Twitch today, as well as the YouTubes. We got a few more of our dudes to get through for the rest of this show today for March 14th. And it looks like it's a Logri. I'm going to get a drink of water. I always got to get a drink. I got to get a Logri the Bard drink in. I promise it's just water. I really cut back on my alcohol consumption. But St. Patrick's Day is coming. I bought, this is way off topic. I bought four, I got an overlay problem here. Look at chat. Okay. I bought four briskets, corned beef briskets. I'm going to be making probably 100 or 120 Reuben sandwiches across two different parties. Pretty stoked about it.
JT does know how to party.
Yeah. I love to cook, man. I love feeding the people, man. Yeah, the Reubens that I do, I smoke the Reubens for like 4 or 5 hours, and then I Dutch oven them for like anywhere from 8 to 10 hours to where it just kind of falls apart. And I add the sauerkraut, and then I toast the bread over open flame. Although for St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to be using a cheap
Maybe get you
griddle.
a food truck, man.
I don't know, but then it would be work. I don't know if I want to.
No, you'd only use it when you come to Ethereum conferences, right? You just travel around them.
Could you imagine? Well, yeah, it would be fun. James Carnley, I see you down in the chat. When are we going to get you back on, bud? James Carnley got some barbecue in Denver. I think he thought it was pretty good. I'll never forget. I gotta say this one thing. I was sitting in the kitchen at one of the Airbnbs I was cooking at. This is just so cool. It was James Carnley, myself, and the A word. And we were being grilled by a gentleman from Hong Kong named Denton. And Denton, he wanted to know all about like all things American from Americans. For instance, gun control, Trump, pop music. Like he wanted just to hear all of our diverse like opinions on all the things. But when we got done, I could tell, let me rephrase that. I could tell the conversation was winding down. We had a great conversation, by the way, but all four of us. And I just go, well, and I brought my hands up like this, and A-word and myself, and maybe James too, we all slapped our thighs like the Midwest goodbye. Denton's like, what was that? And I go, that's the start of the Midwest goodbye. he was like, that's hilarious. I go, well, the best part is we're not actually going to say goodbye for at least probably another 10 minutes or so. And sure enough, I just started like cleaning up or whatever. I came back around 10 minutes later, and I did it again. I go, well, it did it with me. The guy from Hong Kong slapped the thigh, and that's when everybody walked out the door. Anyway, it's just funny shit. A little cultural stuff.
You're just stalling.
Yeah, it's just stalling. All right, Logri the Bard, here we go, as a call to action for the community. Especially on days like today. I want to see what day this was posted. It might have been the big downturn day. 3 days ago. Yeah, especially on days like today where everything seems gloomy, I'm going to recommend you step away from price action and find something more positive to focus on. Watching the red candles won't help you. Either sell or don't. Then focus on something better. Go touch grass. Explore something new on chain. Come back and discuss it here. Lift the sentiment. Be part of the change you want to see in the world. As the Web3 ecosystem has evolved and pioneered tokenomics designs beyond the primitives already understood by TradFi, I feel that attention has shifted away from the app layer. In the previous bull market, through the food frenzied token frenzy of 2020 and the initial adoption of L2s, I used to see frequent discussions about how people were using the chain. I would read stories about people looping in Compound, Alchemix questions, and what people were doing on Loopring or Didux. The enthusiasm for that discussion seems to have died, to our detriment. I still find plenty of technical discussion on the L2 strategy of Ethereum, but the pendulum of development and attention between infrastructure and application has swung back too far to the infrastructure side. Last year, other than discussion about airdrop farming and Pendle, I saw very little discussion about how people were using the chain at all. Today, we see very few podcasts or writers focusing on novel innovation in the app space. So, call to action. Go learn something positive and come back and share it here today instead of staring at your gory portfolio. Well said. Well said to my friend Logreen the Bar. Good job. Yeah.
I mean, to our part, that's part of what this podcast tries to do, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to highlight novel applications like Scenario and spread the word of how people can use the chain in novel ways and get some value out of Ethereum that isn't just their token price going up.
I agree.
Like you should be, I mean, if you want to believe in ETH the asset, you should be using the chain in many ways, right? I use a chain to play a video game called Influence ETH that our community made.
Yeah.
I use the chain for prediction markets. I use the chain for DeFi, farming and yield, right? I
use the chain to publish this podcast every single week. Every single week.
So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you can and should be getting value from the Ethereum network, and we just don't seem to talk about it enough. So we try to use this podcast to further that agenda, but the call to action is to have everyone in our community go out and do that. Like, you've never tried going lending in Euler Prime has like 30% yield on USDC right now. 30%. Like, come on, guys. go and get in. Like Curve USD, I have like 12% rates on, right? You can go and get like loans from your NFTs. You want to hold an EV Maverick and get a loan on it, you can set that up on Ajna, right? Like, there are things like Scenario where you're gonna be able to use that to use as a news feed to spare up more of your time, right? Just to say, like, no, I don't have to be as plugged in order to in order to catch the alpha. We can probably use it for things like crowdfunding, right? If you haven't done anything like Gitcoin grants, go and shop through the various people that are looking for funding and what they've been up to, and try and find some good projects you've never heard of before.
Yeah,
just go shop information
and use ETH as money too. Just find there's people out there in the marketplace that are, it could be the gig economy or whatever. I accept crypto for my, my in real world DJ business, for instance. Yeah. I made a tweet yesterday. I don't know if it really was well put together, but it just, the way that I feel about all this is like, if you're here for the long run, then just use the ETH, and the prices, it becomes less important to you over time. So the phrase I said is, it's too late to sell. And it's what is it? Too late to sell, too early to, God, I gotta find it, but I gotta remember how I phrase it. But it's along the lines of, like, I'm not going anywhere, like, it's fun to me. There's always something to do. I'm always impressed by, it's just, what strikes me, if you would have told me 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that we would have this much activity in the halls of government and the news cycle and the prices where it's at today, I would have been dumbfounded, because the price was higher before all that stuff began.
Everyone funding the chain isn't using the chain.
They're only
like, you go out.
Yeah.
You go out to like the crypto market subreddit, or you go out to crypto Twitter, and you hear people talking like H bar to $10 or whatever, right? You see people shilling XRP. They've never used the chain.
They've never used
They've never.
it.
What would you actually use the XRP chain for?
Why is ETH
If it's even up, right?
why is ETH held to a different standard? The standard that we
everyone's
just
like,
it's
oh man,
always
if you valued ETH by the transaction demand, then like it'd be worth $200. Okay. And what would Bitcoin be worth? What would XRP be worth?
Exactly.
What would Solana be worth, right? Oh, negative money? Yeah, that's about right. So it's we're held to this. It's the most hated asset, and the reason for that is a lot of people obviously got burned, and there's a lot of money to be made by people that want to take us out as competition, and there's not enough of us saying like, no, the chain is great. I use it for all these things that add value to my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this reputation. You go to like the Buckcoin subreddit or something, right? And everyone's like, crypto isn't used for anything but gambling and speculation.
Double
Elizabeth
standard.
Warrens of the world, right? Or like, oh, it's only used for drugs and crime and stuff, and for North Korea. And it's like, well, you've never used the chain.
You know what?
Right?
You know what else is only used for gambling? The U.S. dollar.
Well, there's definitely more cocaine on U.S. dollars than there is on my Ethereum, right? Physically, but I think that to our detriment. So Ethereum, if Ethereum was one company, if all these various D apps were one company, then between all of those different applications would be a biz dev department, right? We would have we'd have like 20 applications, each of which have like a 5-person dev team. And then if you're Amazon, you want to consider AWS and 20 applications on there, there would be a biz dev team for AWS, right? That would exist for DeFi. But because we're not one company, we're like 100 companies. No one wants to be that socialized resource, right? Even the Ethereum Foundation doesn't want to be that socialized resource.
Yeah.
So we have we have this whole where an onboarding funnel should be that brings people to the chain and teaches them how to use it and improves the UX and gets customer feedback and helps prioritize dev efforts. And so everything's built in this kind of like, if we build it, they will come manner, right? And then no one talks about the applications, and it's really hard to fight adoption. So like you go to conferences and it's just kind of like a big crypto circle jerk, right? Where's the acquisition funnel to get all these people that have never used the chain that just like hold a token on a centralized exchange to go and see the value of this, right? Because otherwise we're just begging for institutions to go and create some DeFi mullet and steal 90% of the value from us to offer the remaining 10% as a service. And like that's not Satoshi's vision, right? Like that,
yeah,
we've lost the plot. We have a serious problem in the lack of a biz dev department, and that's I'm hoping we can get Etherealize on the podcast and talk about that exact thing, right? To fix it. And I talk about the same thing in decentralized AI as well, where it's being built just like decentralized finance, and it's going to have exactly the same customer acquisition problem, right? I went to ETH Denver, and I'd go to an AI agent event, and I talked to 50 people, and maybe like literally 2 out of 50 are actually doing something with AI agents at the actual AI agents event, right? Everyone else is speculating in tokens and, and a centralized exchange that's launching tokens, or some VC firm that's trying to fund things, or someone that's trying to create support for how to launch models privately or something. But no one is actually using models. So like the actual agent side of it is missing because there's no customer acquisition funnel. So if you want to be able to take like, a dentist who has 20 years of X-ray data labeled for where the cavities are, right, as a subject matter expert, and create an AI agent and automate that task, that skill, and serve it up and make money from it, you have to go through like 9 different platforms and understand all these tech stacks in order to extract that value. But like, we don't have a customer acquisition funnel to walk them through that. So what are they going to do? Like go to the conference and meet all these teams and assemble all these websites themselves and then like figure out all the technical shit? Like, no, they're a dentist. They label like they're a subject matter expert. So we need the equivalent of like what I have at my the tax firm I'm working with, right? Where they have a funnel of like a funnel of experts on various topics that they walk you through to get you to the end value of your taxes are filed. The person that's doing my crypto reconciliation is not the same person who understands the state taxes, is not the same person who understands property taxes on like, your house, right? They're different people, and they hand you off to different experts in a pipeline that gets you through the process of filing your taxes. We basically need the same thing for DeFi. Here's like someone that's going to help you set up your wallet and make sure it's safe and secure, right? Here's someone that's going to help you understand understand your risk tolerance. Here's someone that's going to help you like with all the various yield positions that are consistent with that risk tolerance. Here's someone that's going to explain insurance options to you. Here's someone that will make your money land, right? So that you can manage it and understand what's happening and take like control of it. That is labor to onboard someone that currently there's just a void on, right?
It's like
Same
a
thing for
certified
AI.
financial planner for the crypto world.
Yeah. So we need basically the same thing for decentralized AI. Here's someone that helps you understand the format of the data that you're going to train the model with. Here's someone that's going to help you understand how to finance the creation of the model. Do you want it to be community owned? Do you want it to be personally owned? Here's how to like place the model on or the training data onto a training marketplace and get it trained. Here's how to take the ownership of that model and then put it onto someone that's going to host it, either yourself or through renting cards, basically, or on an inference marketplace like Morpheus. Like all these things, it looks just like that tax problem I just described. It looks just like the DeFi problem I just described. We just need to do that for decentralized AI as well. So on the DAI space, because I'm so deep into that, I am trying to build this through the Decentralized AI Institute with Douglas Keeney. But on the DeFi space, it's such a massive problem, right? We need someone who's better capitalized and someone like Ethereum to kind of build up that customer acquisition funnel and all the support that we need to bring on 1 million more users, not as token buyers, but to use the chain, right? To really bring value to their lives.
Good stuff. That's well, going back to the call to action, the crypto part of it, and then eventually the AI part of it. I mean, it's all going to need to be woven together at some point because those agents they're definitely going to be using digital dollars, digital stable coins just to. I just don't see how it's not part of the conversation. And you're right, there's going to be a need for all kinds of services out there to help the normies along for the ride. User Harog has a big update from the Haleshki testnet. After 2 weeks of non-finality on the Haleshki testnet after the Pectra upgrade, the chain just finalized again. This is quite an achievement as the network had many forks and clients had to keep track of all the different attestations to the different forks. Client teams had the chance to massively improve their clients, such as scenario would have been very hard to do in an isolated test environment. For me, it was Lodestar, which did an outstanding job, and thanks to them, I was able to stay online. There still are tweaks to improve all the clients, though. Now that it is finalized, it should be much easier to sync the chain again, and even with 32 gigs of RAM, it should be possible to stay synced. The Haleshki testnet is not out of the woods yet. We are barely finalizing 67 to 68%, and a newer epoch went down to 31% again. Maybe the clients are now scrubbing all the unneeded forks, which uses up all the CPU power. The exit queue is also massive. There are over 990,000 validators there, over half of all the Haleshki validators. They will now slowly get exited. Maybe the core devs will follow through with the slashing as well. We will see. That's User Harog, absolute banger contributor to the Doots podcast. User Haselev shares his to Gwei, spoken as an OG. Haselev's been around a long time. Duder number 10. Okay, not OG 2 cents. Crypto went too far from its original ideal and is naturally resetting. Macro grift crime was just the trigger. There seems to be a consensus that that cycle is over. Ethereum missed it, and that top is in. I feel like the fast money casino nonsensical speculation is mostly done. I'm not calling for the death of meme coins. I'm actually holding some ERC20 ticker Bitcoin, the only Bitcoin without security issue. But you read everywhere that institutions are very enthusiastic, so the cycle framework feels less relevant. Grandpa is undeniably a novel macro asset. Every financial institution, I got a spam call, and I meant to have my phone on silent, but when I started earlier, I didn't have internet access, and I had to blah, blah, blah. So I meant to put that in airplane mode, but here we go. Okay, Grandpa is undeniably a novel macro asset. Every financial institution is looking into stablecoins and tokenization. In my humble opinion, they won't touch vaporware coin, but use the wonderful infrastructure that has been developed by genius devs for free. Odds are good for Ethereum to be the global settlement layer in this scenario. But is ETH an investable asset? I think that's a fair question to ask. You don't need that much ETH to actually use the infra. Ethereum is fundamentally misunderstood. The complexity of what it is trying to accomplish blurs the message. The Ethereum Foundation communication, ultrasound money meme, and maxis were not helping in hindsight. This gave a wonderful opportunity for competitors in the store of value smart contract platform data availability space to squeeze ETH, propagating narratives. Even crypto Twitter entertainment account I enjoy like Inversebra are relentlessly shitting on ETH. It's sad. But I don't think institutions looking to tokenize will check crypto Twitter to pick the network they put their client assets on. Credibly neutral, reliable, secure should be the priority. If you don't believe or don't get that the only chain satisfying these conditions is Ethereum, I guess I don't have time to convince you. I have to go top up collateral on Aave. The new Ethereum Foundation leadership and Etherealize, let's go Danny, increase the odds for Ethereum to succeed. If the network proves itself useful for a larger audience, then the educated investors should realize that ETH, as more secure and programmable, is fundamentally better as a store of value. Every chain is trying to be Ethereum, from Frankenstein Bitcoin layer 2 and restaking to, quote, network extension, unquote, and copy-paste DeFi on Squalana. This signal, plus various experts' consensus, let me think, as a non-technical enthusiast, that the roll-up-centric roadmap is actually correct. I'm willing to hold Ether longer as a far from reasonable chunk of my net worth because, number one, innovation in the industry mostly comes from the brilliant Ethereum ecosystem. Number two, total crypto market cap is 15% of gold, and ETH dominance is less than 10%. And number three, I want my digital store of value secure, censorship resistant, and programmable. I just like the ticker ETH. Only cypherpunk chain that I swear on. Shout out to the EV Mavericks Discord. I feel so lucky to have found this place. And no chance am I freaking selling after 10 weekly red candles, LMAO. The sell low meme. Time will tell. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yep. Spaghetti Bolognotto shares their OG perspective. ETH asset needs to bring back investors soon. It's a duder number one, another first-time duder on the pod this week. All right, old timer here, Spaghetti writes, fortunate to have cashed out significantly in 2017 and 2021. So I have a more abstract view than most on here, but I still do hold BTC and Ether in levels to keep me interested. And I am disappointed with how things are progressing near term. In my opinion, Ethereum, the network, is fine. If internet programmable monetary rails and finance succeeds in the coming decades, the Ethereum TVL and stablecoin valuations will rise massively in the future. I think the current roadmap is too forward-looking and has allowed retail to disappear to, quote, cheaper chains like Solana. That was a big mistake. Similar themes such as L2 fragmentation, lack of a unified user experience, etc., are well documented. And I won't discuss further, but haven't helped users. These things will be fixed eventually, I'm sure. The above is all largely irrelevant for ETH asset, and sadly, ETH is currently in an emergency situation, one which has been gradually creeping up for a while. It isn't fashionable to talk about token values in Ethereum circles, but ETH is the investment token on the second biggest network in the world by market capitalization. Recent price performance has been abysmal, both in absolute fiat terms and versus BTC, or now everything else. This demand weakness has been obvious for the last 2 years. Ratio bleed, smaller pumps, bigger drops, repeat ad infinitum. It has now culminated in ETH having virtually no bid from retail institutions, whales, and now even diehard longtime holders. Why do investors hold ETH? To use it, sure, but shuffling stablecoins requires minimal market cap and certainly no growth. No, the honest questions investors hold ETH and give the network economic security through staking it is, number one, store value, and number two, because there is an expectation that it will appreciate, as had occurred in previous cycles. Both 1 and 2 are in serious jeopardy right now. Prices performing badly is to be expected by anyone in the space for an extended period, but selective underperformance will only be tolerated for so long before something breaks, and there is an exodus and a sudden revaluation much lower. We have seen that gradually play out thus far, as people throw in the towel one by one, even now with ETH BTC at 5-year lows. Ethereum will chug on regardless, but ETH needs to bring back users, retail, and investors and start to put forward a compelling investment thesis immediately, or it will fade from here. Remember the flippening? Remember ultrasound money? The certain knowledge? It was just a matter of time before ETH market cap rose to dominate. ETH needs to find a bid and assert itself fast. And for anybody that says that Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum is some kind of a echo chamber or a bubble, that's a dude right there that was very critical about what is happening. Okay, so stop by our Ethereum, get in the daily, keep discussing this stuff. This is a long time OG person that has shared their sentiment and like how we need to take care of the investment thesis that we once had.
I remember seeing a lot of the same criticisms of like, okay, I can use the chain, like in 2018, right? It's like I can use the chain without much ETH. Why do I need to hold ETH, right? Why is it going to cause it to go up? At the time, it was just like all the coins were circulating at lower and lower prices, like a toilet that wouldn't flush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, you just had to find someone that was willing to buy it at $100 until all the sellers were gone. And then people bought it because, again, they thought that the price would go up, right? It's just what he said. They're like, store value and the price will go up. But like the price was going to go up because they thought it would at least return to all-time highs, and it was at $100, which, fair enough, right? How much do we have to fall before that's going to, the risk reward on that's worth it? Do we have to fall to $400? God, I hope not. But it'll cycle again, because I was reading exactly that type of argument he's putting forth in 2018 and in 2022, right? When the chips are down, people start to think very critically about why it's down and the nature of the investment. And so this type of thinking is echoed every bear market.
Yep. It's like repeated, and it's like, this again. And again, it goes back to, I think Ethereum just needs to get angry. Like, why are we the standard by which metrics are gauged, right? It's like,
why is everyone that is doing worse than us on those metrics
we could turn that,
still give them a pass, right?
We could turn that around really easy. We just say, good, compared your metrics of uptime versus ours, compared your amount of transactions across the entire network, and who's using it and what are they doing on it, because it's sure as shit, it's not, it started out with some memery on Ethereum as well, but then we kind of moved on to like other things that are important for the world, like stable coins, like actual building cool stuff. So yeah, it'll be nice to see how this unfolds. Okay, Kartosis discusses coordinated attacks on Ethereum by the Bitcoin maxi crowd. Yeah, this will be a good one. Let's see if we got a Leroy Jenkins here. That's good. The word psyops. Oh, wait, Kartosis. I need to read out their duder number. Also, kind of a relative new number, I think. Ooh, how come I don't have them duded? Oh, I got to fix that. Another first-time duder? Crypto Raves. Yeah, so this is a duder 1. I'm going to fix it right here on the live stream. I don't know how I missed that. This was from 2 days ago. You can see how the sausage is made here on the podcast. I want to go to this day's daily and see if they were up in the they were pinned to the top by Tricky Troll. Cartosis. Interesting. So they were not in Tricky's. Okay, so this is let's see, I don't see Cartosis anywhere up here. That's okay. Cartosis was nominated for the Weekly by the A Word. Nice job, A Word. Okay, so this is an A Word exclusive, but I'm going to make sure they get their point regardless, so they can be on the Daily Doots leaderboard. All right, so first time duder. This is an A Word exclusive. Cartosis discusses coordinated attacks on Ethereum by the Bitcoin maxi crowd. All right. The word psyops is tinfoily, I know, but what else would you call what I'm writing about below? This is historically the BTC maxi media and trading landscape in regards to ETH. Number one, use social media and news outlets to downplay any achievement, but also hyperbolize and maximize any bad news. I'll demonstrate below how CoinDesk and BTC maxis have been doing this since day one. Number two, use the media to sway sentiment and place shorts accordingly. Yes. So the first major play was when BTC Maxi stoked up major contentious and vitriol during the DAO debacle. You had Jimmy Song, Kevin Pham. Ooh, I remember Kevin Pham. He would film himself like doing like karate kicks and shit. Oh, it's so cringy. Pomp and more did this openly and consistently, often resorting to personal attacks and even threats on Twitter. The masses would repeat the talking points verbatim, particularly in discussion threads and on Reddit. Ask me how I know. For a recent example, look at the BTC voices during the Bybit hack. It was them calling for a hard fork, not anyone in the ETH community. Well said. And it was their publications boosting the hard fork speculations based on that astroturfing. Shit like that is ever present. Also, they provided liquidity for the initial listing of ETC on Poloniex, right at the peak of the largely stoked by them drama. For instance, BTC Maxi showed their hypocrisy by suddenly broadcasting major support for ETC and EVM chain, a complete about face. And what do you think the explanation for that was? It was so their initial liquidity that they injected into Poloniex to list ETC got pumped. And it worked spectacularly, both for profit and fueling the ETH hate.
How dare you?
It was the first major gain from the manufactured ETH FUD, and they've used the formula to short ETH ever since. CoinDesk was the first big crypto news publication and still have yet to write a favorable headline for Ethereum. Let's say whenever a shitcoin rug pulled, they'd say Ethereum coin scams users. Or in the case of random token smart contract, quote, hack on Ethereum. Plus, for good news, when a new ETH innovation happens, for example, major EIPs implemented, NFTs, DAOs, DeFi protocols, so on and so forth, proof of stake, they'd say stuff like, quote, new blockchain innovation launched instead. This was so flagrant that for years, there was a whole movement called Say Ethereum. Oh my God, I remember that. They and many other publications who amplified the BTC Maxi signal still don't say it. This is also anti-blockchain and anti-innovation to its core. I've seen many respectable names fall into this tribalism over the years, which ultimately and singularly serves to perpetuate unsupportive narratives that in the end really stifle funding and growth of new and interesting projects. Ethereum brought and continues to bring so many advancements to blockchain technology, which most of the space, including Bitcoin, have benefited from. Yet the credit is stolen, accomplishments shit on, and the ETH leadership that got us there ad hominem, shaking my head for real. Yes, no doubt about it.
Boom, boom, boom.
That is so well said. God, that just like reading that right there, it just like a flood comes back to me, remembering that whole episode that they did. They were doing that over and over and over. It was just disgusting. Crazy to me. Oh, boy. All right. Very good. Okay. One more for the week. And then we're going to sign Nora out of here. Let's see. User Grain RH. Wait. Grain-RH. Is that like a Linux command? I think that's like a Linux command, isn't it? RH? What would that be? Maybe I'm reading it. Another first-time duder. This has got to be a record. We've had eight or nine duders join the rich list just this week, and I think 5 of them have made the weekly podcast. Good on you, Hayward. I love it. Let's get some fresh blood going on in here. I get it. Well, not anything wrong with the old blood. I like old blood too. But you smell what I'm throwing down. You're picking up what I'm cooking. You know what I mean. Okay, back to it. They see stable coins as the signal. User Grain RH. The reality is that deep down, everybody knows there will only be one smart contracting platform of the internet. The BTC Maxis know it. The VCs know it. The Soul Bros know it. BTC Maxis are trying to shoehorn smart contracts via OpCat, despite ridiculing ETH for years. VCs missed the boat on ETH and they hate it. Soul is how they catch up and control it. Stable coins are the product market fit. And where will they live? The smart contract platform for stables is the prize. Hence why ETH is under attack from all sides. Deep down, they all know the race is over and ETH has already won. The efforts to promote Bitcoin from VCs and prominent officials is most likely to keep the door wedged open to allow their smart contract platform of choice to have a chance to sneak through. That's pretty well said. I like that.
I love it when a plan comes together.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's podcast. It's always fun to talk to our people that come on the show as our guests. That today we had Steve Merry from Scenario Protocol. Go check him out. ScenarioProtocol.io. You can use the referral code Mavericks there at I like to say checkout, but there's no checkout. You can try out the app. You can get in there and start getting your reputation built up. And that is a project that literally launched yesterday our time, and it's neat. They got a vibrant team being that has been guided a little bit by Logri the Bard along. Special thanks to Logri for being a technical interviewer today and helping out with the podcast. So check out scenarioprotocol.io. You can also give them a follow. Check out all the links below for where you can get this podcast subscribed to. We appreciate you to give us a thumbs up, smash the bells, give us a like, and more importantly, drop by the daily. Stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTubes. Hi, Mom. On behalf of the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.